Morning everybody, and welcome to the Licensing and Gambling Committee, which is being held on Friday the 15th of January 2001. My name is Councillor Julian Simmons. I am Vice Chair of the Licensing Group, but I will be chairing the meeting today. This meeting is being held remotely by Microsoft Teams due to the restrictions and in relation to COVID-19. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available to view via the Council's website, except for discussions involving confidential or exempt items. Therefore, the images or audio of those individuals present or are speaking will be publicly available via the recording on the Council's website at www.caerphilly.gov.uk. I will now carry out a roll call for those in attendance. Please can you announce yourselves as present when I call your name, please. Members first. Councillor Phil Bevan. Thank you, Phil. And Councillor Walter Williams.
Yeah, Chair.
Thanks, Walter. Can I just check if the following officers are present as well, please? That's Lee Morgan from Licensing.
Yeah, present, Chair.
Thanks, Lee. And Catherine Hopkins, our Senior Licensing Officer.
Yeah, present, Chair.
Thanks, Catherine. And Mike Wellbank, our Senior Solicitor. I think you're on mute, Mike.
Yes,
that's all right. That's okay, that's fine. Thanks for that. And Rebecca Barrett, our Committee Services Officer, please.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. I also like to just check if our applicant is here with us, and that's Mr. Alex Xavier.
Yeah, present.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Xavier. I also have responsible authorities and other persons speaking at the meeting. Please could you announce yourself as present, so when I call your name. So it's PC Karina Williams.
Yeah, present, Chair.
Thanks, Karina. And Tim Keohane, which is our trading standards.
Present, Chair.
Thank you, Tim. Can I also welcome supporting officers from the committee services who will be present in the background. Thank you for confirming your attendance. And I would just like to remind attendees that if you do lose connection, please make every effort to reconnect. Committee services will be on hand to help and assist you if necessary. Please may I ask everyone to keep your microphones on mute and until you're asked to speak. I should also like to remind everyone that the chair has the discretion to remove persons from the remote meeting if it is necessary. If you wish to speak, please use the hands up facility on the Microsoft Teams. So we shall now move swiftly on to the agenda. And first of all, the agenda is the first item is apologies for absence. I only have one at the moment, which is Councillor Andrew Farina Childs. Are there any others that we know of or not? No, that's fine. Thank you.
Chair, if I may just briefly interrupt you, sorry.
Yes, of course you can, Lee. Yes, carry on.
Yeah. Just to clarify that also present in the meeting is the elected member, Councillor Dix, just for the record.
Thank you for doing that, Lee. That's not on my list, but thank you. Sorry, Nigel. Thank you. Welcome to you as well.
And you, Julian.
Thank you. That's great.
I thought I was forgotten then.
I wouldn't do it.
Like Tutankhamun, never to be discovered.
You know me better than that.
And Chair, and just if I may, just one further apology for you, Chair. That has been received from a business objector, Mr. Hugh Edwards, has given his apologies for the meeting this morning also.
That's lovely. Thank you for that, Sir Lee. That's brilliant. Thank you. Okay, then we come to the item number 2, which is the declarations of interest. Councillors and officers are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and or prejudicial interest or interests in respect to the item of the business on this agenda, in accordance to the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constituted Code of Conduct, both for councillors and officers. Please use the hands up function to indicate if you have such declarations, please. I don't see any hands up, so that's great. So we shall move on swiftly on then to item 3, which is the main part of our meeting, obviously, today, which is the determination of the premises licensing application for Clarence Food and Wine of 88 High Street, Blackwood, MP12 1AE. Mr. Wallbank from Legal, can I just hand over to you, please? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So before we go into the hearing, I'll just run through the procedure. That procedure will be, we'll firstly hear from the licensing manager and he will present his report. Everybody will then have the opportunity to ask questions of the licensing manager, so the panel and then the applicant and then the other parties. Once that's finished, Mr. Xavier, then you will have the opportunity to say what you want to say to the panel. And then once again, the panel and everyone else present will have the opportunity to ask questions of you. We'll then move on to the responsible authorities, so Gwent Police and Trading Standards. Again, they'll say what they want to say, and then there'll be questions from the panel and the other parties, followed by the other person, so Councillor Dix. You'll be invited to speak at that point, and again there'll be questions after that. Once all that's finished, everybody who's spoken will have the opportunity to sum up. Just to mention that summing up should be a summary of the points you want the panel to take away, and bear in mind when they're considering. It doesn't need to be a reiteration of everything that you've said in your main report, and it shouldn't raise any new points at that stage. Can I just ask, if you don't hear a question or a response, please don't be afraid to ask the person speaking. Please don't be afraid to ask the person speaking to repeat what they've said. Obviously, people do get connection issues on these platforms from time to time. If you lose connection for any reason, the proceedings will be paused whilst you try to reconnect. But please try and do everything you can to reconnect whilst that's going on. If you can't get back in for any reason, please telephone committee services. And if you could make a note of this number to ring, it's 01443 864 245. So that's the telephone number to call, please, if you get thrown out of the meeting and you're unable to reconnect. So moving on from that, once everybody's summed up, the chair will ask all of the parties to leave the meeting. So you'll be asked to press the hang up button, and the panel will then go into a private session to deliberate. Once they've reached a decision, that will be communicated in writing to all parties within 5 working days. Are there any questions on that, please? Councillor Dix.
Will we not know today the outcome? Or we got to wait for 5 working days for written to about it? Or will a decision be made today?
It's hard to say, because I don't know what matters are going to come up, and I don't know how long it's going to take to draft the decision. I mean, it's quite feasible that the decision will be available later this afternoon, but the statutory time limit is 5 working days, so it could be anything up to that. In reality, I suspect it will be sooner.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Hand down, hand down. I'm having problems with this hand thing, lower hand. Go on. Sorry.
Okay, thank you for that, Michael. Appreciate that. Let's. Councillor Bevan, I noticed you had your hand up. Any questions at all?
Mike, if you could repeat that number a little slower, because I wasn't know where you were going to give it, and I now have a pen.
That's okay. Shall
Yes.
I give it to you?
Yeah.
It's 01443.
Yeah.
864.
Yep.
245.
Thank you.
Are there any other
Thanks.
questions on the procedure? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, that's lovely. Thanks for that, Legal. I'd like to hand over now to our licensing. Mr. Morgan, please.
Okay, well, thank you, Chair, and good morning and welcome to everyone this morning to this subcommittee hearing in relation to the application for the grant of a new premises licence by Mr Alex Quinton Xavier in respect of a premises, namely Clarence Food and Wine, which is located at 88 High Street in Blackwood. Members, I know that you will have received and read the report in respect of the application that you will consider and subsequently determine this morning. Since the preparation and closure of the report, I would like to make members aware that a resident defined as another person who's identified as person A, and that's Mr Llewellyn, whose comments were detailed at Appendix 8 of the report on page 33, has withdrawn his representation, and I would ask that you formally note this, and his comments will no longer form part of the hearing. Members, in addition, the licensing team has received apologies for absence from Councillor Farina Childs, elected member for the Blackwood ward, and also Mr Hugh Edwards for work and for personal commitment reasons. However, both have reiterated their position in respect of the application in that they have no objection to the grant of the licence, subject to a cessation of the sale of alcohol at 2200 hours, Monday through to Sunday. Members, I'll briefly, if I may, run through the report for you before the applicant, Mr Xavier, addresses you as part of his application process. This application this morning is for a premises licence for off sales only. This is detailed within 1.3 of the report in the bundle you have this morning. Following representation through the 28-day consultation period, representations have been received and agreement has been made by the applicant whereby the hours have been amended to reflect that they will, your consideration today will be Monday to Sunday, 7 AM through till 2200 hours. As I mentioned, during the 28-day consultation period, there have been representations received from Headley Gwent Police, Trading Standards, 2 elected members for the area, and also a resident and a business owner who have recorded their representations and objections. The comments of each of the responsible authorities and other persons are detailed in your report packs between paragraphs 1.51 and 1.52. A summary of their comments that have been made and received are set out at paragraph 1.6. During the consultation period, the applicant has responded and has agreed to amend his proposed hours, as I've touched upon, and has accepted the conditions that have been proposed by both Gwent Police and Trading Standards. So the position of the responsible authorities is that they are essentially satisfied with conditions. However, you'll hear from both parties as part of the hearing this morning. In relation to elected members, Councillor Dix is present and will confirm his position for you later. But again, the position is no objection, save for the cessation of alcohol at 2200 hours. So that leaves 1 remaining resident and 1 business objector. Mr Bennett, resident identified as resident B, has indicated that he did not wish to attend the hearing this morning. His comments are there for you to consider at Appendix 9 at page 35 of the bundle. Mr Edwards has confirmed that subject to the cessation of alcohol at 2200 hours, he is satisfied. There's some further observations I've put in the report for you of the representation has been received, and they're contained within paragraph 1.9. Members, as part of your determination process this morning, you will consider the promotion of the licensing objectives. You will have regard to the Licensing Act 2003, the statutory 182 guidance issued, the Council's own policy, statement of licensing policy, and all representations made and presented to you at this hearing this morning. As in all report members, you will note an officer recommendation. This is set out at paragraph 1.10 on page 7. However, as you will be aware, this is just a recommendation, and determination of the application lies with you as the subcommittee. As I indicated earlier on, Councillor Farina Childs has indicated he is unable to attend the hearing this morning. So when it is the turn of the elected members to provide you with their representation, I will just clarify the information he has provided to us as part of his apologies for this meeting, and I'll come in again at that point. Okay, Chair. What I'll do is I'll hand back to you now, and obviously allow you to invite any questions so far in relation to the information I provided. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Mr. Morgan. That's lovely. Are there any questions of the licensing manager? Just as interest, if you could indicate, please, with your hands up. I see Councillor Phil Bevan's got his hand up. So, Councillor Phil.
Yeah, Lee, I'm wondering, in your recommendations, there is reference, of course, to CCTV, but I'm sure the police will be interested to see what the quality of that is, because sometimes they send pictures and it could be Mickey Mouse as far as we're concerned, because the quality of the picture is no good. Is that something that we can insist that the applicant adheres to, a good quality picture rather than something that doesn't show who the offender or person is?
Unless stipulated, I'm just looking down at the condition now, just to try and offer you some sort of assurance there, Councillor Bevan. Let me just briefly look at the the condition itself requires the CCTV to be in good working order and continually recording. If there is nothing which stands out as to the quality of the pictures as detailed in this condition. If obviously it transpires that the CCTV is not as of a standard, obviously I'm sure the police would comment further, but it's at the moment that is the basis of the condition that is proposed, is that detailed in the recommendation. But I know that the legal advisor has raised his hand, and I'll perhaps allow him to come in at this point.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. Chair, if it's all right for me to make a quick comment on that, I don't see why the condition couldn't be amended to provide for the capture of a good quality picture. Clearly, there's some subjectivity as to what constitutes a good quality picture, but I would have thought on any common sense definition, in a good quality picture, you would be able to identify persons in that. So, from a legal perspective, I don't see why that condition couldn't just be tightened up to cater for a good quality picture, if that helps.
Yeah, and I think the wording really needs to carry that. I mean, it's, as you know, some as councillors, when we get something from the police with a picture of someone committing an offence, there's no way in hell that you can recognise him unless he's wearing something that you recognise. But from a facial point of view, it's essential as far as the police is concerned to identify who the person is. And I would have thought that they would determine the quality of the picture that they require. Perhaps.
I think you're not going to cover all eventualities, and obviously the best we can realistically impose is fixed position cameras which cover the licensed area. So it may be that depending on the positioning of persons in the shop, you don't get their face. Unfortunately, there's not a tremendous amount we can stipulate about what aspects of individuals the picture must capture, but I think we can stipulate that the image must be good quality. So at least that would potentially give some protection against really grainy, poor quality pictures.
Okay, perhaps the police will make a comment as they make a contribution, please.
Okay, are there any other comments that want to be made at all? Or any other questions? That's great. Thanks ever so much indeed for that. Then we now move on to the representations from the applicant. Mr. Xavier, could I ask you to address the subcommittee, please, in support of your application? Thank you, sir.
Hi.
Good morning, Mr. Xavier. If you'd like to make your representation, that's fine. Carry on, please.
Yeah, sure. I have about this the CCTV. We already informed to the PC, which is talked to me earlier. I mean, it's a couple of months ago. We had is high quality 4K. The new systems, everything is in the new shop. Is we fix everything is high quality and I-Street standard the business. So we have some samples from the other business CCTV. We can manage from mobile and any other device. I have already the mobile. I can show the quality of the pictures and then recording system if you want. And then same time, we have so many experience from the current business. So we confirm this, everything is by law, and then train fully the staff by independent agencies. And then myself is as license holder anyway. So I'm in the business time. Is every single staff fully trained and with the certificate. So we currently of this is the thing 25 and all kids production everything. So if you want any further details, we can provide any time, even this is standing qualities and then customer service, everything.
That's fine. Thank you, Mr. Xavier. I was going to say, any other comments you want to raise yourself, or are you happy? Oh, that's okay. Thank you, Mr. Xavier. Are there any questions we'd like to ask the applicant at all, please? Could you indicate with your hand up, please? Councillor Williams? Oh, sorry, sir, go on.
Yeah, from me, we don't have any.
No, yeah. That's fine. Thanks very much indeed. And I think it was Councillor Bevan had his hand up first, so Councillor Phil?
Mr. Xavier, you've seen the conditions that the authority have put on your application. Are you happy to adhere to all of them?
Of course, yes.
Is that a yes, I think?
Yes. Okay, thank you, Councillor Bevan. And Councillor Williams?
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Mr. Xavier. Councillor Walter Williams. A couple of questions. How many stores do you have of this type Is this the only store you will have?
Yeah, we have already in High Street in Newport, 24-hour shop. I have only once. This is second one.
The second one, yeah. How many staff would be in the store?
We at least 4 staff will work the store.
Say again, please.
Or the High Street 88 one, Blackwood one, is we allocated to 4 staff.
4 staff, yeah. How many will be in the store after 5:30?
2 of them.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know most of the town closes down after 5:30. Who do you think your customer is going to be, you know? What's your customer base for after 5:30?
Residents.
Yeah.
And then the High Street shoppers. And then I believe is already in High Street is the walking crowd, the customer flow until around 11 o'clock. So we plan to close 10 o'clock.
Yeah, yeah. I noticed from the diagram of the building that there's a bathroom in there, a toilet. Will that be open to the customers or just for staff?
Not for the customers, only for the staff use.
For the staff?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Thank you, Mr. Xavier. We'll move on now to the other representations from the responsible authorities. Gwent Police first, please. PC Karina Williams, can I ask you to make your representation, please? PC Williams, thank you.
Okay, Chair. Would you like me to read out my representations, or how do you want me to do it?
Yes, you can read out, please, if you don't mind, Karina. That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Gwent Police has received an application for a new premises licence under the Licensing Act 2003 in respect to the above named premises, being 88 High Street, Blackwood. Gwent Police have made representations on the following grounds due to them undermining one or more of the licensing objectives, which are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. Gwent Police would object to the initial proposed hours of Friday and Saturday to 1 a.m, as discussed with the applicant. The town centre is subject to a high volume of ASB, especially on weekends, of which a high proportion of these incidents are alcohol related. Permitting the premises to remain open until 1 o'clock, there is potential for an increase in the amount of incidents and disorder on the high street caused by the customers leaving other premises. These incidents would be reduced by the premises closing at 11 p.m. Should the applicant wish to amend his application until 11, Monday to Sunday, Gwent Police would withdraw their objections but would propose the following conditions to assist in meeting the 4 licensing objectives. Gwent Police would like the below to be added. CCTV shall be in use at the premises. Where CCTV system is to be installed, extended or replaced, it shall be an appropriate standard as agreed with the licensing authority in consultation with the police. Where a CCTV system is to be installed, it shall be fully operational at the date the license is granted. The CCTV equipment shall be maintained in good working order and continually record where licensable activity takes place and for a period of 2 hours afterwards. The premises licence holder shall ensure images from the CCTV are retained for a period of 31 days. This image retention period may be reviewed as appropriate by the licensing authority. The correct date and time will be generated onto both the recording and the real-time image screen. If the CCTV equipment, including any mobile units in use at the premises, breaks down, the premises license holder shall ensure the designated premises supervisor, or in his/her absence any other responsible person, verbally informs the licensing authority and the police as soon as reasonably practicable. This information shall be contemporaneously recorded in the incident report register and shall include the date, time and means this was done and to whom the information was reported. Equipment failures shall be repaired or replaced as soon as reasonably practicable and without undue delay. The licensing authority and the police shall be informed when faults are rectified. The premises license holder shall ensure that there are trained members of staff available during licensable hours to be able to reproduce and download CCTV images into a removable format at the request of any authorised officer of the licensing authority or a constable. There shall be clear signage indicating that CCTV equipment is in use and recording at the premises. In addition, there shall be no consumption of alcohol beverages purchased from the premises in open containers outside at the front of the premises. Should customers be outside the premises causing congestion, loitering and/or causing antisocial behaviour, they will be told to move away from the vicinity. An incident report logbook shall be held at the premises at all times and shall be produced to an authorised officer of the licensing authority or a constable immediately upon request. It shall contain the details of persons involved, the incident description, time and date, and actions taken and final outcome of the situation. An approved proof of age scheme shall be adopted, implemented and advertised within the premises, such as Challenge 25, whereby an accepted form of photographic identification shall be requested before any alcohol is sold to any person who appears to be under the age of 25. Acceptable proof of age shall include identification bearing the customer's photograph, date of birth, and integral holographic mark or security measure. Suitable means of identification would include pass approved proof of age card, photo card, driving licence and passport. All refusals will be kept in a refusals book detailing the time, date, the goods, the staff member and the name of the persons who tried to purchase. If no name is given, then a good description will be recorded. This documentation should be available for inspection on requests by an authorised officer of the licensing authority or a constable. All staff are to be trained with respect to underage sales, such training to be updated as necessary when legislation changes, and should include training in how to refuse sales to difficult customers. Safeguarding training should also be undertaken with all staff. Training should be clearly documented, signed and dated by both the trainer and member of staff receiving it. This documentation should be available for inspection on request by an authorised officer of the licensing authority or a constable. Rowdy and or disorderly customers will be asked to leave the premises. The aforementioned are proposed to assist in the promoting of the key licensing objectives. If the applicant wishes to discuss any issues, they are welcome to contact me. That was my representations that I made initially. Since that time, I spoke to the applicant and offered up that 11 o'clock in line with other premises in the vicinity would be acceptable to Gwent Police. I also discussed my thoughts on my representations and put them to the applicant, to which he agreed. And these are the conditions that I've just read out to you now.
Thank you, PC Williams. That's very kind of you. That's brilliant. Are there any questions anybody would like to ask Gwent Police? If so, could you indicate with your hand up? And I see Councillor Phil Bevan's got his hands up. So, Councillor Phil?
Yeah, so thank you, Chair. Karina, I'm concerned about the quality of the pictures. You know, sometimes you send us images that are totally unrecognisable because of the quality of the picture. You mentioned the authority's CCTV standards, and I assume that's to cover all the things that you've mentioned, but nowhere has anybody mentioned the quality of that picture. And I think it's important from your point of view that it is a clear picture at least. Any comment on that, please?
Yes, I have said in my representation on the CCTV that it should be to an appropriate standard as agreed with the licensing authority and in consultation with the police. Therefore, if we felt that it wasn't appropriate and we did check it and it wasn't deemed to be appropriate, then we would address that with Mr. Xavier. Also, what I would like to say from a police perspective is, you know, some premises have the most fantastic CCTV systems and are very, very clear 99% of the time. But if somebody goes in with a hood up or sunglasses on or something, you can't judge that. You can't cover all eventualities.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I was just concerned about the quality of the picture of those people that come in and need to be identified for other reasons, who come in just with no disguise at all. That you refer to the qualities, but what are these qualities that you're looking for? Is there a standard?
Well, I don't think Gwent Police have a standard as such. I think it's, you know, you view some people, you know, some premises have got very good CCTV and others haven't. And the only way to judge that is to actually see it in operation. You know, without seeing it in operation, you can't judge how good the quality of the picture is. So this is why I've said it should be to an appropriate standard as agreed. So therefore, if necessary, the licensing authority or the police would be able to go along and have a look and deem for themselves. I think that at this stage, that's the best that we can offer.
Okay, well, if that's the best you can offer, we'll have to accept that.
Thank you, Councillor Phil. And Legal, I gather you've got your hand up there.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points on that. The first one on the CCTV, sort of mirrors what I said, really. You can't cover every single eventuality, and it wouldn't be reasonable to expect the applicant to do so. There is, of course, the review procedure. So if it was to subsequently transpire that the CCTV provision was inadequate, then Gwent Police or any other responsible body would be able to apply for a review of the licence and have the matter reconsidered by a panel. The other was a brief question for Gwent Police, and I think this is covered off in your submission just now. But just to be clear and for the benefit of the panel, are you now saying that Gwent Police doesn't object to this application as resubmitted? That is with the agreed conditions that the licensing manager read out, with the terminal hour of 10 o'clock, 7 days a week.
Yes, I asked for 11 o'clock I discussed with the applicant 11 o'clock, and I think since then, as you've said, he's further agreed to 10 o'clock. Initially, I made my reps based on the initial application, which was till 1, but I've put forward my conditions, which has been accepted. So as far as Gwent Police are concerned, I've got no further objections at all.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure there were no live matters on the table, as it were. Thank you.
No problem.
That's great. Thanks for that, Michael. Brilliant. I don't see any other hands up. No, that's great. Thank you. Well, thank you, PC Williams. Moving on to trading standards now. Mr. Tim Keohane, can I ask you to make your representations, please, Tim? Thank you.
Certainly, Chair. My initial representations were in relation to the protection of children from harm, and they're detailed at page 25 of the notes. There was a lot of crossover with the representations made by Gwent Police, and and effectively, my representations indicated that the application does not cover staff or members' awareness in the sale of alcohol to over 18s who subsequently supply to those under 18 years of age, nor staff members or members of staff training. It is suggested the operating schedule of the licence can be improved by the addition of the following conditions. And these conditions were also part of Gwent Police's representations. So unless you want me to, Chair, I don't intend to read through them. Again, those are conditions detailed SA01 and SA02. SA06 I don't think has been agreed with the applicant. I think my colleagues in licensing had some discussions and there was some duplication. So those were the application, the representations made by Trading Standards as a responsible authority, and they've been agreed by the applicant, and therefore, as a responsible authority, Trading Standards are happy with the application now.
That's great. Thanks, Mr. Keown, for that. That's brilliant. Are there any questions to ask Trading Standards at all? Any hands up at all? I don't see any hands up, so that's fine. Okay, thank you for that, Tim. Appreciate that. Moving then swiftly on then, can we move to the representation, please, from the local ward member, Councillor Dix? Please, can I ask you to make your representation, please? Councillor Nigel. Thank you, Nigel.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, as a local ward councillor for Blackwood for the best part of 17 years, many of the issues I deal with over the weekends is alcohol related, antisocial behaviour. Currently in the town, we have hotspots of antisocial behaviour, as the police alluded to earlier in their representations. All this antisocial behaviour is fueled by alcohol. If you go to the gathering points where people meet on Cliff Road, around the retail parks after purchasing alcohol, you sit. If you go to the areas where they sit, you can see masses of tins of empty bottles and litter left from their drinking sessions. We all know that alcohol is an addictive and problematic substance to some people. In my experience as a substance misuse worker over the years, I work with many people who are alcohol dependent. Current and open from 7 a.m. in the morning to 11 in the evening is like a sweet shop to people who are alcohol dependent. That means they can get alcohol early in the morning when they wake up, and they can purchase it late in the evening. Currently in Blackwood, we most premises, I've checked with officers on this, don't have any off sales after 11 p.m. in the evening. They're usually 10 to 10:30, and they're on. You consume the alcohol on the property. The concern that I have that this is off premises sales till 11 o'clock. When the pubs are open, it means that people could be coming out of the pubs, purchasing alcohol, and then going home or hanging around the streets for longer. I've had many representations from the residents, Mr. Bennett, as you just mentioned earlier, and Mr. Edwards from Tidal Stores, which is the oldest shop in Blackwood. And it's a long established business there. And the last thing I want is people turning up there, hanging around, consuming alcohol or purchasing alcohol and then causing trouble later around around by residents where they live, which is what happens now. And we don't have any sales till 11 o'clock. This will only exacerbate the situation and make it worse and give them another outlet. Because the people who are going to be purchasing alcohol 11 o'clock, I would say, are alcohol dependent, because you can go to the supermarket, you can go to some of the garages, you can go to the superstores around you, and you can get all the alcohol you want. And more alcohol in the community is not what we need. I would argue we need to restrict the sale of alcohol to limited times to restrict the damage to our community. Now, Blackwood, like I said, has suffered hugely from antisocial behaviour triggered by alcohol and substance misuse as well. I'm strongly opposed to this. This would set a precedent in the High Street, as Councillor Walter Williams alluded to earlier, and he's quite correct when he said that the town shuts at 5:30, and most of the shops are shut. So staying open till 11 o'clock, you're not going to be getting people who are going to be going to get a bottle of wine with their supper or with their tea sensible drinkers. I would argue you're aiming at the problematic long-term drinkers, cheap alcohol, strong cider, them kind of things. That's the concerns I got. As I said, as for the CCTV, you can have the best CCTV in the world. It doesn't make no difference because that's on site. It's what happens off site. It's what happens down the back lanes, down the back of the shops, down with the bin stores, down on the footpaths where there's no CCTV. And then we're reporting incidents of antisocial behaviour because of the alcohol. I can take you down all the steps and the alleyways down around Blackwood Town Centre, and there will be drinking dens down there. This will only exacerbate the problem, as I said earlier. So CCTV is a wonderful thing that only records what's on and around the premises. It doesn't record what's happening in my community later on after they bought alcohol at 11 o'clock or 10 to 11 in the evening. Let me just think, anything else? That's my deliberations, Julian, my thoughts and feelings on that, and of my residents as well. So I would ask the committee to agree to 10 o'clock as a sensible time where we can compromise on that. Currently, there are no premises shops in the town that sell alcohol after 10 o'clock. Let's stick with what works. Let's give the residents a break of an hour. Let's give a chance to people to go home and the town to settle down rather than to 11 o'clock. And then if anything kicks off, it goes on until 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. That's what I'm concerned about. It's the residents. This is the first time that anybody in the town has asked for a license till 11 o'clock. 1 o'clock, I was horrified. But 11 o'clock is still bad. 10 o'clock, I think, is a sensible compromise for the applicant and my residents. Thank you, Chair.
Lovely. Thank you, Councillor Nigel, for that. That's brilliant. Are there any questions of the local ward member at all? Please could you indicate with your hands up? And I can see 2 hands up already. So first one I noticed was our licensing manager, Mr. Lee Morgan. Lee.
Sorry, Chair, not necessarily a question, but only a reminder from what I said earlier to come back in to confirm Councillor Farina Childs' position. So I'll put my hand back down because I see that the legal advisor might want to say something in respect of Councillor Dix's comments.
That's fine. Thanks for that. Legal, Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to give some advice to the panel regarding a couple of points arising from that representation. I think the first one is the application specifies a terminal hour of 10 p.m. Councillor Dix, are you saying with the terminal hour of 10 p.m. to get 10 p.m. set out in the application, you don't object to this?
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear you then, Michael. It broke up. What did you say?
The revised application specifies the terminal hour for the sales of alcohol of 10 p.m, which is what you asked for in your representation. Do you therefore not object to this application?
If it's 10 p.m, 7 days a week, yeah, I'm happy for that.
Okay, thank you.
My residents are as well. 10 p.m. I think that's a good compromise.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Councillor Dix. We also have representations from another ward member and a local resident which are not in attendance today, as stated earlier on. They are in the agenda pack and will also be noted by the subcommittee. But Lee, do you want to say anything additional to that, please?
Yes, if I may, Chair, that's
yes,
great. Thank you. If I can just bring to members' attention and to all other parties, Councillor Farina Childs has provided representations in his apologies to the licensing team. He said he had intended to speak to the licensing committee this Friday in relation to his objections against the proposed opening hours submitted by Clarence Food and Wine. However, due to work commitments, he's unable to do so. The reasons he says he would like to object to the submitted proposal of opening hours by Clarence Food and Wines as follows. He has concerns that if a licence were to be granted till 11 p.m, this could possibly lead to an increase in alcohol-related antisocial behaviour. If the licence were to be granted till 11 p.m, then the licensing committee may be setting a precedent, as I'm unaware of any other retail outlets on Blackwood High Street selling alcohol until this time. I would caveat what Councillor Freenshaw's has indicated there, as what the legal advisor just alluded to. The application that you're considering this morning is alcohol sales until a terminal hour of 2200 hours only. Mr. Councillor Freenshaw's goes on to say he would also like to ask licensing committee to consider the current Welsh Government guidelines in relation to the selling of alcohol in relation to Tier 4 restrictions. Therefore, I would respectfully request that the licensing committee give my objections, and as a way of compromise, give consideration to a 10 p.m. cut-off time for the selling of alcohol, given the current circumstances we find ourselves in. So they were the comments yesterday provided by Councillor Farina Childs. I would also perhaps remind members that the Licensing Act would permit an applicant to seek any permitted alcohol time up to 24 hours if they were so minded to. The current position for Tier 4 restriction only relates to coronavirus provisions, so the applicant will be quite entitled to make any request for hours that he has done. However, I would come back to that the applicant has already confirmed his acceptance of the 2200 hour cut-off time sought by Councillor Farina Childs. And on that basis, I would consider that the councillor is satisfied if that provides some assistance to the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. That's great. Brilliant. Well, if there are no other further questions, I'd now like to ask the parties to sum up, and we will retire to make our decision.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes, Councillor Williams.
I did have my hand up earlier.
Sorry, beg your pardon.
To ask a question or give an observation to Councillor Dix.
Yeah, carry on.
Okay, Councillor Dix, when you mentioned I asked about the customer, the reason for that is I remember the time when there was an off licence in Blackwood High Street. I think it was just about opposite where this Mr. Xavier starts to open up now, and that used to close at +5. But I think Tesco in the town and Bateman shut that store because people shopped in the supermarket. And I think now most people buy their alcohol for the house with a weekly shop, which is Asda or Aldi's. So this is a reason I don't understand how Mr. Xavier is going to make a profit in the store, really. But that's not for the committee to judge. We've just got to do it on other things. We don't come under that. So that's the reason for my. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Williams. That's lovely. Okay, if there are no further questions, I will now ask the parties to sum up before we retire to make our decision. This will take the following order. First, licensing. Secondly, the responsible authorities. And then thirdly, the other applicants. So please can I ask Mr. Morgan, please, to do his summing for licensing, please. Thank you.
Sorry, just before we go on, we did have a couple of hands up.
Oh, okay.
I know Mr. Morgan. I just wanted to make the point, and I'm very sorry to cut in, but can I just clarify? We've got one outstanding objection from a member of the public.
Oh, yes, that's okay. Yes, sorry, Lee. I didn't mean to cut you short there. I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah. If I may, just to
yes, carry on.
As the legal advisor has indicated, there is one outstanding local resident representation that is contained, and I'll take you to it in a second. This is Mr. Bennett's position on Appendix 9. Mr. Bennett isn't attending the proceedings this morning, but his comments are contained within Appendix 9 of page 35. Just so that we can document that you've considered his representation at this meeting today, and I think we've covered this off also. The business objector and Mr. Edwards at Tidal Store, I think he has confirmed his he is satisfied with cessation of alcohol time for 2,200 hours also. So it's just to clarify that position in respect of both those parties for you formally, if I may.
That's fine. That's okay.
Chair, I would like to make one very brief further point, which may provide some assistance or may not. In relation to Blackwood High Street, there are premises there which may have permission in terms of their licence to provide alcohol sales till 2,300 hours. Of course, whether any of those premises choose to operate to those times, it may be a different matter. So a license may be held which would give the permission to remain open till 11 o'clock at night. The premises, though, for whatever reason, for commercial reasons, for business reasons, may decide to sort of curtail their hours before that, which they're quite able to do. So I just would like to make that point just as for clarification for you. Okay, thank you.
That's lovely. Thank you for that, Mr. Morgan. That's brilliant. Okay, then, as I said before, if there are no further questions, I would now like to ask all the parties to do their summing up before we make our decisions, please. This will be in the following order: licensing first, responsible authorities, other persons, and then the applicant. So could I hand over to Mr. Morgan, please, for your summing up first, please, sir? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I would just refer members back to my comments earlier in the meeting and to the report. Obviously, subject to members' considerations in relation to CCTV. Clearly, if there is some specific wording that members would like to see in relation to a condition regards to the quality of the CCTV, then they are able to do so as part of the deliberations today. However, I would thank the members for having read the report and considered the information within it. I would guide them back to sort of the licensing assessment at 1.8 and in terms of how you will consider this matter this morning, and also then the recommendation in the report subject to the conditions as was detailed, but obviously you can influence or amend or add to any further conditions should you feel that it's appropriate, if obviously members determined to grant the license, that is. Okay, Chair, unless I have nothing further to add, so I'll hand back at this point. Thank you very much.
That's lovely. Thank you, Mr. Morgan. That's brilliant. And I'd like to hand over to PC Karina Williams, please, from Gwent Police. PC Karina, please.
Hi. Not a lot from me. Just basically, as a result of the discussions with the applicant and his agreement with my representations and the reduction in the hours to 11 o'clock and all the other conditions that he accepted, there is nothing further for me on this matter. And that's about it.
That's great. Thank you, PC Williams. That's brilliant. Thank you for that. And then moving over then to Mr. Tim Keohane from Trading Standards. Mr. Keohane, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I've got nothing at all to add. Thank you very much, and unless anybody's got any questions for me afterwards.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Tim. Lovely. And then finally, last but not least, then it's Councillor Nigel Dix as a ward member. Nigel, you got anything you'd like to add further, and you're summing up?
Just a point of clarification, if I can. Are we talking, is the applicant agreed to 10 o'clock, 7 days a week? Because the police just said 11 o'clock, and then officers are saying 10 o'clock, so I'm confused.
If I may, perhaps I can provide some clarification. Yes, in relation to the police comments, the police would have been satisfied with 2,300 hours.
Right.
However, following your representations and that of local residents, the applicant has amended his application to 2,200 hours.
Right.
So the matter for determination today for members would be the retail sale of alcohol between the hours of 7 AM and 2,200 hours, Monday to Sunday. So
okay, that's what just the clarification on, because it was the police said that 11. I thought, didn't I just hear 10? That's fine.
No,
I have nothing further to add there.
Yeah, you heard right. But obviously, from the police perspective, that was their position. But it's been sort of trumped, if you want to call it that, by other comments from other parties.
Okay, then I won't impeach you. You're okay. Cheers.
The dirty word there, Lee. Trump.
Thank you, Nigel. That's great. And finally, but not least, Mr. Xavier. Thank you for your attendance today, sir. We appreciate that. Is there anything else you would like to say further, or are you okay? I think you're on mute, sir. Mr. Xavier, you there still?
Hi.
Yeah. Okay.
I had to tell this we're going to install the CCTV, the high quality, the 4K. This is at least 45 days is recording system, and same time we agree this is a PC William. What I say, we agree everything. We are on the everything, follow these rules and everything. So same time, we always think 25 is qualified staff with the fully trained. So that's we are always keep on everything by law anyway. So nothing else.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much indeed for what you've said. Thank you. And just like to say thank you to everybody today for attending the meeting and for their representations. Can I just hand you over back to our licensing manager, Mr. Morgan, please? Lee, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
that's okay.
I don't think there's much more for me to add, subject to advice from the legal advisor. I would ask that members now shortly retire and that you consider the application before you this morning. Then, as indicated earlier, there is a legal time frame of 5 working days in which for the decision to be communicated to all parties, and whatever the members have as much time as they need within that time frame to make that determination and for it to be sent to the applicant. And we will, once we have that decision, that will be sent predominantly by email, and there's one resident who doesn't have access to email, so that will be posted. But I'll just conscious of the legal advisor present, so nothing further from myself, and I'll hand back to the legal advisor. Thank you.
That's lovely. Thank you. Legal, would you like to say something?
Yeah, just a few points, Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Firstly, in terms of legal advice on what we've heard, there are a few points I should have clarified with all parties present. We heard the word precedent mentioned a few times. These application hearings don't set a precedent. Each application is judged on its own merits, and it wouldn't be permissible to refer to something that was said in a previous licensing hearing in a future one. So it's not binding on future decisions, whatever is decided in this application. That's the first point. We heard a little bit about the proliferation of other places with licenses to sell alcohol in the centre of Blackwood. There is no cumulative impact policy in place in relation to Blackwood. So again, that's not really a consideration. That is the number of other licensed premises in the area. And the other thing on antisocial behaviour is quite right and proper that the applicant should be expected to have some control over the behaviour of his customers when they're in the vicinity of his store. However, the Government Licensing Act guidance is quite clear that the applicant cannot be expected to be responsible for the behaviour of his customers further away from his premises. So I must ask the panel to be aware of that. Just to wrap up my advice, a couple of points on the conditions. Whilst the hearing's been going on and mindful of what's been said with regard to CCTV, I would propose a slight alteration to one of the agreed conditions, and that's as set out in Mr. Morgan's report, and that's condition 1. And simply, where it currently says the CCTV equipment shall be maintained in good working order and continually record when licensable activity takes place, and for a period of 2 hours afterwards, I would simply propose the addition of the words "a good quality image," so that reads: the CCTV equipment shall be maintained in good working order and continually record a good quality image when licensable activity takes place and for a period of 2 hours afterwards. I think realistically that is as far as the panel can take that at this stage, and hopefully that amendment won't be too contentious to any parties, particularly in view of what Mr. Xavier said about his CCTV. The only other point I would make with reference to the proposed conditions is the proposed condition 9 as set out in the licensing officer's report, which reads: all staff with a responsibility for supplying or selling alcohol shall be vigilant in preventing adults buying alcohol on behalf of persons who are under 18 and will refuse such sales where they suspect that this may be about to occur. My clear advice to the panel is that condition should not be adopted for the simple reason that, as a matter of law anyway, it's an offence to sell alcohol to a person for consumption by a minor. So all of that condition will be doing is gold-plating existing legislation, which is something that the Licensing Act Statutory Guidance counsels very clearly against. So I would strongly recommend to the panel the removal of condition 9. Those were the points of law that I wanted to make, and then just looking at the procedural stuff, Mr. Morgan's very helpfully covered off most of that, but just to say that in a moment all parties apart from the panel, me and the clerk of the hearing will go into a deliberation, and the panel will consider carefully everything that's been said. My role in that is to advise the panel. I'm not part of the decision making process, so the decision that comes out of this will be the decision of the 3 panel members. As we've already said, the decision will be communicated in writing within the next 5 working days, but hopefully sooner. So that's what is going to happen now. I don't think I need to say anything else, unless, Chair, you want me to clarify anything else.
No, I think that's fine. Thank you, legal. Has anybody else got anything else to say? I can't see any hands up. No, that's fine. That's lovely. Well, look, thank you, legal. And thank you, everybody, this morning for attending. I wish you a good day. Can I just ask now all parties to leave the Teams meeting by pressing the hang up button, but obviously those who are obviously in the decision making to remain. Thank you very much indeed, everybody, and best wishes to you all, and a happy new year. Thank you.